Tati looking for his second tonight, and he puts it by. New York City right before the half doubles the advantage. It's 2-0.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to Miami Total Football. It's the day after Inter Miami saw its franchise record unbeaten run come to an end, and it did so with a 2-0 loss on the road against New York City FC at Red Bull Arena in Harrison, New Jersey. And for Inter Miami, the defeat meant a missed opportunity to continue to climb up the Eastern Conference standings. Inter Miami entered the night in 12th place in the East and could have moved up to 10th, but they weren't able to pull out the 3 points. And not only was that frustrating and disappointing for Inter Miami, but the manner in which the loss came, because it started the game out on the front foot, but a first half brace from Valentin Castellanos proved the difference and doomed Inter Miami to its 9th defeat of the season at the exact midway point of the MLS campaign. Inter Miami is now 4-9-4 through 17 matches in the 2021 season, still 8 points shy of the playoff spot, and there's still much work to be done.
I don't think it's anywhere near where we wanted to be. Even though the last 2 or 3 weeks have provided a little bit of positivity and good feeling, we're nowhere near we want to be, nowhere near the level of consistent we need to be. And the players know that, I know that, the whole club knows that.
Now, diving into the game a little bit more, Inter Miami, as I mentioned before, was the better team in the first 20-25 minutes. The team was dictating the tempo, it had the ball, and it looked the more dangerous side. Now, Inter Miami came out in a 5-3-2 formation. This was not the 5-2-3 that they had been playing in the last couple of games. This was the 5-3-2 that we saw in the second half of the come-from-behind win at home against CF Montreal on July 31st. And that meant that you had Gregory as the lone six, the lone defensive midfielder, and Victor Ulloa and Blaise Matuidi ahead of him as central midfielders. And the reason for that was to try to clog the middle, to try to match the numbers that NYCFC gets into the center of the park. And that worked for Inter Miami, at least to start. And what also worked for Inter Miami was playing long balls and being a little bit more direct and going route one. I thought Leandro Gonzalez-Pires, who for me was the best Inter Miami player on the night, I thought he was especially effective at helping Inter Miami penetrate the final third of New York City FC with a lot of good balls into space, again, where the areas were where NYCFC left behind, the spaces that NYCFC left behind because of how high they play. And Inter Miami generated some good things from there. But in the 20th minute, NYCFC gets on the board with a goal from Valentin Castellanos, a good header after he frees himself from his mark of Kelvin Leerdam. Now, there's a lot of things that go into this goal. Kelvin Leerdam is obviously the most responsible for it because he was the one that was closest and the one that should have been marking Castellanos. But if you watch the sequence again, he and Lewis Morgan, who was playing as the right wing back, have a bit of miscommunication. Lewis Morgan at first makes a gesture with his hand to try to tell Kelvin Leerdam to pick him up, or seemingly to tell him to pick him up. But then a couple of moments later, Kelvin Leerdam does the same. He points with his hand, makes a gesture as if Lewis Morgan needs to pick him up. So they didn't seem to be on the same page there, which might have caused Kelvin Leerdam to have some hesitation with his mark. He still should have done a better job, and he doesn't do so. However, also, NYCFC does a great job of overloading Inter Miami's left wing, NYCFC's right flank, by just having more numbers than Inter Miami could account for in such a short amount of time, because Maximiliano Morales has all time in the world to pick out that perfectly placed cross. No pressure on him there, and obviously with his quality, he's able to deliver a good ball that, again, Castellanos puts away. Even still, Inter Miami was still in this one. Inter Miami still generated some attacking sequences, or some good passing sequences rather, and they were still within striking distance. Now, they didn't generate, again, a whole lot in the final third, but they were still within reach, up until Kelvin Leerdam handles the ball in the penalty area in the first minute of first half stoppage time, leading to a penalty kick for NYCFC. Now, this handball was as blatant as any you'll see. This was not one of those controversial ones that you could say, well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. No, this was as blatant as the lit up guitar at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. I mean, it was as obvious as you could see. he didn't. I don't even know what he was really doing there. Maybe he stopped thinking for a second or got a rush of blood to the head because his hands were up and it was a clear spot kick, a clear penalty, and obviously Valentin Castellanos converts on the ensuing attempt. He clips it down the middle with a Panenka effort, and Inter Miami goes from being within reach to being in a big hole at halftime. And that was part of the disappointing part for Inter Miami.
If we defend across well and defend a throwing well, then we don't concede the 2 goals that ultimately cost us the game. In a moment when we were totally in control of the game and I thought totally on top, dominating, creating chances, causing them problems.
Now the second half, Inter Miami put forth the effort to try to get back into it. You saw some effort, you saw some fight, but not a whole lot of good soccer, and they never really got back into this one, never really looked like getting back into this one. I know a lot of people will point to the defense as the main reason for this defeat, and I agree that Kelvin Leerdam struggled in this one, had his worst outing in an Inter Miami jersey here, and he was largely to blame for the 2 goals, but for me, it's still the attack. It's still the attack, and I think numbers back that up. If you look statistically at Inter Miami, their goals conceded is 4th worst in the league. Or excuse me, 4th worst in the Eastern Conference, which is obviously not great. But their goal scoring output, they have 15 goals in 17 games. That's less than a goal per match and is the 2nd worst output in all of the league, behind only, or in front of, only expansion side Austin FC. So Inter Miami has the worst attack in the Eastern Conference and 2nd worst in Major League Soccer in 2021. And things have to improve there if the team is going to have any shot at making the playoffs, especially given that there are talented players there like Gonzalo Higuain, Rodolfo Pizarro, and Lewis Morgan and the like. So Inter Miami has to find a way to do better there. I don't know how Phil Neville goes about that because obviously they've shored up things defensively by throwing more numbers behind, because when they threw more numbers forward, they had problems giving up goals. So it's a tricky balance, but balance is the key, and finding a way to get more goals will be important for Inter Miami during the second half of the season.
Me parece que la parte final de la cancha es la parte más difícil del fútbol. Lamentablemente son detalles muy finos los que te hacen convertir un gol o tener una chance a no. Tenemos que trabajar con eso, seguir insistiendo en los entrenamientos.
Now, a couple of other things I'd like to quickly touch on here, and one that I don't think should be glossed over, is that Phil Neville, after the game, said he was disappointed and frustrated because Inter Miami players got away from the game plan after conceding that first goal in the 20th minute. And that, to me, is pretty concerning, if at least eyebrow-raising, because if you're 17 games into the season and your team is not following the game plan, albeit for potentially good reasons because they want to get back into the match, as Phil Neville said, but in a different way, then I still think that raises the question as to whether the team is really bought in, or at least some of the team is really bought into Phil Neville's philosophy, his vision, and what he's selling and how he's selling it. So I think that's still a question mark, especially after a game like this where he says that players got away from the game plan.
We lost our composure. We started to do our own individual bits that we thought that would help the team, but obviously they just stuck to the plan like we did in the first 25 minutes. We would have continued to dominate, and that's my frustration. Is that when you have a little bit of a setback like the first goal, you just got to keep believing in what you're doing, and that was what give us a real good foundation in the game.
Now, the other thing I'd like to touch on really quickly is that I think Phil Neville's tactics from the start were good. I think they were right, but I don't think the lineup that he had out there to execute it was correct. Now, the reason being is, one, Kelvin Leerdam obviously struggled, and he's a natural fullback. He was asked to play as one of the 3 center backs. He's done that before for Inter Miami, and he's done that for his national team, Suriname. But in this one, he struggled and showed why he's not a natural center back. I think even before the game, I think Christian Makoun was the better option to play as a 3rd center back because he had shown well the week before against Nashville. SC on both sides of the ball, looked a lot more confident with the ball at his feet, also was defending pretty well in that one. So I thought he was a better option. I also think he has played more there. He's spent more time there at the center back position. So I think that was a mistake. I also think playing Rodolfo Pizarro in a game, or starting Rodolfo Pizarro, in a game where you're going to be playing long balls, I think that was a bit of an error, and I think if Phil Neville could go back and do it again, he would maybe replace Rodolfo Pizarro with someone like Indiana Vassilev, who has more speed and can get in behind the defense. Because look, if you're going to play long balls, if you're going to look to beat the high line, then you need players that can get into those spaces. And Rodolfo Pizarro is not that type of player. He's someone that likes to check back and try to get the ball at his feet, which he did not. That's not what the game plan was, and he was completely negated by and large in this one. Didn't have a whole lot of an impact in the game. There was one moment in the first half where he's just kind of feeling the game out, and you hear Phil Neville shout at him to make a run in behind, and then he tries, but it's too late. The spaces had been closed. The defense had already reacted. So I think Phil Neville got those two calls wrong, and I think, you know, if he could go back, he would redo it with different players like Christian McCoon and like Indiana Vassilev, just to give them players that better suited what they were trying to do. But that about does it for now. What did you think of Inter Miami's 2-0 loss to NYCFC? Are you frustrated with the result given how it played out? Or are you okay with it, all things considered, given that NYCFC entered the night as the third place team in the Eastern Conference and moved up to second with this win? So obviously a very good team in the East. Please let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know what you think about Inter Miami's attack. How does Inter Miami get more out of this team, and especially in the final third, because that will obviously be key to any chance at making a playoff push. Again, let me know your thoughts, opinions in the comment section below. Also, let me know what you thought about Phil Neville's tactics and the lineup he trotted out. Do you agree with me that maybe he got it wrong by not going with someone like Indiana Vassilev over Rodolfo Pizarro, given the game plan that was on hand? Again, please let me know in the comment section below. We will be back again this week. It's a busy week. There's 2 games on hand against the Chicago Fire and Toronto FC, 2 teams that are in the lower part of the Eastern Conference. Both those games are at DRV PNK Stadium, so Inter Miami needs to try to get maximum points from them in order to try to really push forward and push on at the start of the second half of the campaign. I am Franco Panizo. This is Miami Total Football. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys again very, very soon.